Now, this caused some controversy and even some rebellion from time to time. He thought now he would get exactly the same result, but the jury would get the blame because, after all, he would appoint every one of the judges, every one of the prosecutors, every one of the investigators or sheriffs, and the jury would consist only of his loyal and faithful subjects. Now, those of you who have practiced some law in the federal courts will realize, of course, that since 1215, not a great deal has changed. Now, as the story goes, in order to prove this theory, King arranged for the very first jury trial to be charged as he'd brought against a very wealthy nobleman. He assigned his most loyal and faithful judge to preside and picked his very best prosecutor. He arranged for the venue to be in that part of England where the people were most loyal to the king, a small farming village. The trial was conducted in a barn because, of course, he didn't have courthouses yet. And after all the evidence was in, the prosecutor told the jury that the king not only expected, but he demanded a guilty verdict. The jury deliberated all day. When they finally reached the verdict, it was almost dark, and they shocked everyone in the barn, including the defendant. The verdict was not guilty. The prosecutor then demanded of the judge that the jury be sequestered in the barn, locked up overnight, without food, without heat, and that they be ordered to reconsider their verdict. The judge, of course, complied. The next morning, all the people from the little village came down to the barn to see what was happening. The men hadn't come home, the stock hadn't been fed. All of this was new to them. As they arrived, the sheriff unlocked the barn door and they all went inside. And the jury came forward. The judge asked the foreman had he reconsidered their verdict, and he said that they had. The jury was cold, they were hungry, they were tired, but most of all, they were afraid. They had never, ever defied their king. They didn't know what could happen to themselves, to their families, to their property. When the foreman spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. He could hardly be heard. And he said, "Not guilty." The prosecutor went into a rage, and he screamed at the jury. He said, "I demand of you, tell me right now, when will you do as the king has ordered you to do? When will you find this man guilty?" And the foreman stepped forward, and in a voice that was loud and clear, he replied, "Never." And the word went out from that little village throughout all of England, and in time, most of Europe. 500 years later, the jury system came to America with the immigrants on a boat. And through the years, it developed in America law schools and bar associations and special bar associations, until finally in 1950, the prestigious American College of Trial Lawyers. But all during this time, the jury system has remained the same, or virtually the same, until today. And during the same period of time, they developed in America a different kind of lawyer, a different breed, the trial lawyer. Teddy Roosevelt said, "Credit does not belong to the man who tells. how the strong man stumbled. Credit belongs to the man who really was in the arena, his face marred with sweat and dirt, who comes short and short again. For there is no great achievement without error and shortcoming, who spends himself on a worthy cause. And in the end, if he prevails, he knows the triumph of great achievement. And if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place will never be with those cold and cruel souls who know neither victory nor defeat. The trial lawyer. The trial lawyer. I am concerned, and I believe that many of you are also concerned. I'm concerned about our jury system here in America today. I'm concerned when the Congress and the General Assemblies of nearly every one of our states debate and frequently pass so-called tort reform, which is nothing more than jury regulation and control by the government. And the strange thing is, the people who support tort reform are, for the most part, the same people who are against government regulation and control. It seems to me that these folks do not trust Americans. They don't trust the men and women who serve on juries, not because they want to, but because they are ordered to. They don't trust these Americans and our judicial system to do the right thing. They, like King John, no longer trust the jury. Perhaps it's time to revisit Runnymede. And it won't be the first time. Rudyard Kipling, who died in 1936, revisited Runnymede 700 years after the fact. And this is what he wrote in part about Runnymede and the River Thames. At Runnymede, your rights were won at Runnymede. No free man shall be fined or bound or dispossessed of freehold ground, except by lawful judgment found and passed upon him by his peers. Forget not, after all these years, the charter signed at Runnymede. And still, when mob or monarch lays to rude a hand on English ways, the whisper wakes, the shouter plays across the reeds at Runnymede. And Thames, who knows the moods of crowds and kings and priests and such like things, runs deep and dreadful as he brings their warnings down from Runnymede. As you know, there is no River Thames in America. Who then will bring the warnings to Americans? The lawyers of America. If not you, who? If not now, when? To the fellows in the American College, and especially to the newer members, I tell you this: be proud to be a trial lawyer. Be proud to be the guardian of the jury system in America. Be proud to be the person who makes liberty and justice for all a reality and not a slogan. And finally, be proud to be a fellow in the American College. to be a member of the Hall of Fame for trial lawyers and to be a part of this wonderful, marvelous judicial system. Madam President.